Okay, well, I guess I'm live. Dang. Been having some issues with the setup just as I start. Of course, you do everything you can to get everything going perfectly good before you start the system, and next thing you know, it decides not to play along. So I planned to start the stream at 8 o'clock. It's now 8:08. I guess it's time to rip off the Band-Aid, I guess to say. I'm still trying to get some things I had set up before set up because, you know, of course, technical issues have to start like right when you're in the middle of stuff. So I've had this YouTube channel for a while now, and I finally decided that I was going to get off my butt and start doing actual videos and such on it. And yeah, John, you're correct. It does happen all the time. Anyway, I wanted to try something different. I wanted to live stream my recording of videos because I felt, you know, a lot of times I overjudged myself when I was creating videos, and I would go into this like deep dark pit of attempting to create a video and like going over the replays and stuff like that. And I just thought, you know, if I do it more organic or more naturally, things will happen. And I also thought it would be a good idea to show people what it takes to make a video and kind of just be really raw with it. And that's kind of where I plan to be with most of my videos is, you know, just acting like raw and just recording this stuff as it goes. And it just so happens, you know, technical difficulties that really helps, I guess, rip off the Band-Aid and get the nerves out the door. And everything that's been recorded so far will remain on my YouTube page for posterity, and we'll go from there. So I thought I would start off with a bit of an explanation of why I'm basically starting over on the channel. And then kind of go from there. And I was going to cover some objectives of the CompTIA Net Plus N10. Oh, good. Audio is good. Thank you, John. So I was going to cover the new certification exam for the CompTIA Net Plus certification. That would be the N10-007. Or 07 or whatever you want to call it, and just start from there and go through all the CompTIA certifications. My plan is to have the videos or do these live streams and have the videos posted throughout the week, but the live streams will happen on Sundays starting at 8 until I finish or decide I'm done for the night. And then the other night will be Wednesdays at 8 o'clock and until I finish, kind of thing, and then go from there. So a bit of an explanation of why my channel was inactive for a while. When I decided to first put a channel together and actually start producing videos and the like, I was working with an older computer that I picked out of storage because me and my now wife were living in an apartment, and I literally got that computer up and going by putting it got some water damage or some leakage from the storage unit on it. So I ended up taking that computer apart and, believe it or not, putting it in the dishwasher. Not the best way to clean up a computer, but hey, that computer worked for about 2 years after I did that. So I started trying to put the channel together then with it, and then did a couple of videos. I got a little bit more comfortable about being behind the camera, and then the next thing you know, that computer was starting to have issues, and I think I know why. I put it in the dishwasher. And anyone that doubts me there, I got pictures. And so from there, I bought a new system. I bought a Intel i7 computer with oh gosh, some of the nerves coming up right now, but with a 170 chipset on it, and that started working good for me, and I produced some videos on that actual system. That's where most of my videos were produced from. But the problem I had with that system is I didn't have enough EIDE paths. So I was trying to use multi-camera views and stuff like that, and it wasn't able to hold up with it because the way I built the computer, I ended up using all of my lanes, or my EIDE lanes, before I'm saying EIDE. I should be saying extended PCI slots or whatever you want to say, but just sorry for the nerves. But anyway, I ended up building that system, and I thought it would work well for what I want to do. And being new to YouTube, it didn't quite work out. I was having a lot of issues where I would record videos and either the audio would be out of sync or messed up, or the computer itself would start clipping a video, and you would see a lot of jitter. So I would have to go back and record a lot of video, and it caused all kinds of issues in the end. And it would take making a video, something that I did long form videos before, like I would do a whole chapter on A+, and it would take me forever to do that video because either Premiere would crash or I would have some issue with OBS and the actual setup of the computer. That shouldn't be a problem now. I've quite literally updated everything. I have all new webcams at the moment. This is on my own budget, so therefore I don't have any high quality cameras at the moment. But I have 4 webcams, and I will show you the views here in a second, and you will get to see the views quite a bit through the videos as I create them, because obviously on the live stream you're going to see me do the transitions and all that. And I ended up building a new system. The new system I built is a AMD Threadripper with 32 cores and 64 threads. So this system should really take anything I throw at it. I have 32 gigs of RAM on it, pretty fast RAM. I have NVMe storage on it, both for the storage of live videos that's being recorded and a system drive. And then it's water cooled, of course. And let's see, PCIe slots. There's the right term. Let's get the nerves out again. PCIe lanes is what I was trying to refer to before, and I was calling it EIDE. Again, things mixed up. It's a bunch of fun. But my PCIe slots, my PCIe slots now, I have plenty of lanes for it. I went from using an Intel processor and the chipset, the 170 chipset, and the problem with that is the 170 chipset, I only had 20 lanes of PCIe, and the 20 lanes of PCIe only allowed me to really support my video card, which takes 16 lanes. My video card is a NVIDIA GeForce the 1080, the original Founders Edition. So I'm using all 16 lanes there. So there was 16 lanes that left 4. I had an NVMe chip in that old computer, and that NVMe chip and the configuration I had it set up in took an additional 4 lanes. So that meant anything else I put in the system, as far as like expansion for USB slots, USB 3.0 or anything like that, had to use the switching ability within the 170 chipset. And unfortunately, with that configuration, the switching didn't work also well. So I would have webcams literally die on me mid-video. So I would be creating a video, putting it together, and as I'm talking to the camera or what have you, which is, you'll see me look away from the camera, but I'm trying to look at it, so I'm looking at you. But anyway, I would be looking at the camera and discussing an issue or covering a subject, and then finish the recording, go back and look that I've been freeze frame for 10, 15 minutes. So again, that was really a problem. So John asked, why did I choose, or why did I decide on the Threadripper? I decided to go with the Threadripper because number one, I knew I was looking at the Intel 10-core chip with a X299 chipset, but looking at it on that chipset, I would have only gotten like 42 threads of PCIe, and I knew that I wanted to expand out like a bunch. And granted, that Intel chipset would have covered me, or that proc would have covered me for what I wanted to do. But then through doing my research, I found that the Threadripper runs a lot faster the more higher speed RAM you throw at it. Not only that, it allows you, instead of dealing with only 42 PCIe lanes, with the Threadripper you get 64 PCIe lanes. So just doing the math, there's more than enough lanes. The system, being that it has 32 cores and 64 threads, it should be able to handle anything I throw at it. Later on in the series, I plan to run software such as Packet Tracer, Wireshark, which, yes, those aren't very demanding software, but I have one system, and I'm using that for the production of everything. I'm a one-man production kind of setup. So therefore, the system I just told you about, the Threadripper system, that is not only recording all of my content that I will later go back and edit and make shorter clips, but it is also recording this. It's also broadcasting this live stream. And so I figured, the more I can throw at it, since I'm not playing a game or anything like that, it should be able to handle literally anything I throw at it. And one of the things I will be running on this is I have VMware's workstation on it, and I will be running virtual machines on it in the future to show or demonstrate different things. For example, after I go through the CompTIA series, I plan on going into Microsoft certification stuff. And obviously in that kind of setup, I would need like a couple virtual machines that are workstations, or some virtual machines that are also servers. So it's for future expansion. And also to answer John a little bit further on why I chose the Threadripper solution, or the chipset, is because it's been proven, even with the latest release of Threadripper 2.0, which I don't have. I have the original Threadripper. I don't have the 2.0 64 core, crazy massive deal. But yeah, it's up there. So let me see here if I could. Performance. Oh my gosh, my nerves are getting to me, I guess. No, I've been misrepresenting my system the whole time. It's actually 16 cores, 32 threads. I'm getting the two versions mixed up. But I have version 1.0, which is 16 cores, 32 threads. I've been looking at the 32 core 64 threads, so that's why I got that mixed up. Again, good old nerves. We'll save this for posterity and see how it looks in a couple of months and so on, and see if I do better on these videos. But anyway, yeah, still with even the 32 threads, or the 16 core 32 threads, it still has the 64 PCIe pipeline. So it's got 64 lanes of PCIe, and that's what I was really looking for. So sorry to misrepresent. Still 16 cores, 32 threads. I should be able to run multiple virtual machines on this. I should also be able to do my actual broadcast and actually record the videos I want to record for actual publishing. So that's a little bit of background, and hopefully the nerves go away here. But right now I'm running my system at, let me show you this this display. Let me drag this up here, switch that, and go here. And as I said, this is going to be very rough cut. I just thought I'm having to play with it a little bit because I had a little technical difficulty on the start of this whole thing. So we'll go to there, and here we go. So doing everything I'm doing right now, the system is simultaneously recording and broadcasting, and I'm only using 14% of the total processor's capability. So it really should be very well suited for what I plan to do with the system. So there's that. And just to show you the different views I got going on here, I have my all record. So these are the, you see my backside on one of the video views, but I have multi-view set up. I have 4 webcams. They are the 920s, Logitech 920s, and those have pretty good, they do 1080 at 30 frames per second. So I thought that would work all right. The way I have it set up, I have a demonstration where I can do like a whiteboard and stuff like that. I'm going to use that some tonight. Also below that whiteboard, I have things like a static pad, and so I can do some demonstration. For example, in the Net Plus class, I'm going to do some demonstration on how to create, untwisted or unshielded twisted pair cables, and how to get the color code right, what the difference is between the shielded and unshielded, and straight through versus a crossover, and so on and so forth. So there's some plans to move forward on this, and so here's how this channel is going to work moving forward. So my plan with this channel is, one, I do not want to ever turn on monetization. I hate advertisements like crazy, and the last thing I want to do is make other people suffer with advertisements. So far, everything that I've done here, I've done out of my own pocket, and I have currently, as it sits, 179 subscribers. I know that that's not a whole bunch, but hopefully as I up the frequency of releasing videos, and also get rid of some of the nerves and all that stuff, I hope to have a subscriber count increase. And the whole plan for this channel is to provide a place for people that are wanting to break into the IT industry to actually come to my channel and get the same kind of education that they would get if they were going to a trade school or something like that, or a really expensive college. where they call themselves a college, but in the end, all they give you is this diploma of completion, and it really has no meaning whatsoever. So the plan is to keep this channel always monetization free, and just, you know, keep it out there. I do have a Patreon that I've started up, and you know, I'm not going to be begging people all the time to go to there, but if you want to see the videos get better and hopefully me get better, and you like what I do, if you feel so inclined to subscribe to Patreon and you know, donate a few bucks here and there. I do have some tiers. The tiers I have is I have a $1 tier where you just go and you just donate $1 and gee whiz, you know, thank you kind of thing. And then I have a $5 tier, which will give you access to videos 24 hours or more before they're actually published onto YouTube, giving you basically the opportunity to do the first reviews on it, and also let me know if you have any questions or things like that. And I basically give you a dedicated question and answer section until it's actually produced live, or until it actually goes live onto the site. These live streams will remain live streams here. Again, I plan on doing the live streams every, sorry, my iPad keeps on going on and off, and my wife must be doing something with the calendar, driving me nuts. Give me 1 second here. Got that volume off on that. Shouldn't be making noise, but it seems that that's what it wants to do right now. Anyway, so where was I? So these live streams, as I said, will be remaining live and raw, like you see it now, and just kind of doing it that way. And so the live streams will again be on Sundays and Wednesdays from 8 o'clock until whenever I feel that I'm done. And on that, I will take questions. As right now, I'm sure you'll see this in the future. My only person on there right now, it looks like I got another person, but my only person right now is Jonathan. He's asked a couple questions, and I've answered them. That's kind of the plan. I don't know if I might ever do anything like a super chat or anything like that. But over back on Patreon, and let me see if I can get to that site, and I'll basically show you what I got set up here. Here we go. So go back to demo here, and let's go demo and screen. So on Patreon, what I got set up here is I have a couple tiers. As I said, I got that $1 tier. You don't really get anything special out of that tier. About the only thing you get out of that tier is a gee whiz thanks. I have the $5 tier, which is just if you donate $5, basically you get early access to everything, early access to ask additional questions once I publish an actual finished video. I then have a $10 tier, and that tier, this is per month. So I plan on doing weekly Q&As. These will be live Q&As, and they will not be me trying to produce a video or anything like that at the time. It will be just me sitting here answering questions, doing back and forth. Think of the Q&A of more of like if you were going to a private college or something like that, and you were asking the instructor questions. You could ask them questions, they'll answer it, hopefully, or if, you know, I'm not perfect, so if I don't have the answer for you, I will find the answer for you kind of thing. So that $10 tier gives you text access to this Q&A on Discord. As you see on this screen that I have up right now, I have the Discord on the side, and I'll explain that a little bit more. But on the live Q&As I plan on doing once a week. You'll have text access, and then below there's the $25 tier for $25 a month. You get all the benefits of the previous tiers from $5 to $10. Plus, you get voice access on the Discord, so you can ask me voice questions. And also, if you choose not to ask questions via voice, your questions will be highlighted, and your questions will be answered first, and so on and so forth. So the next question you may be asking is why someone like me just starting out a YouTube channel after being off for a while would basically set up a Patreon. And basically the reason for that is again, I've financed all this stuff out of my own pocket, and the plan is to take whatever I make through Patreon or anything like that and literally put it right back into the channel, not into my own pocket. You know, I may have to recoup here and there, but the plan is to actually get it set up so that all the funds that I get from that go into buying better equipment, hopefully set up more of a studio kind of setup, so you don't see what you see behind me, which is the storage rack and stuff like that. I might just keep that a little bit because I think, again, the whole raw feels pretty good and stuff like that. So anyway, I've talked enough about this. I've spent dang near half an hour on talking about equipment and what I'm doing there. So here's where we'll start, and we'll go from here. So the first course that I'm going to cover, and again, as you're watching this is going to be a rough draft for everyone watching, 2 visitors, yay. But what you're going to see is I'm going to do the actual video and the demonstration part of the course and explaining what things are. And then later on, not live streamed at this moment anyway, because it takes me a while to do it, I'm going to add the slides and the different things that make more of a presentation video. The other thing I'm going to do is, instead of what I've done in the past, if you watch my older videos, I attempted to do full chapters of a book, and I use books as a guideline because I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. So I don't copy material out of the books, more as I just use them as an outline of how I'm going to conduct my course. So what I do here is, in this rough, I'm going to in this rough run through, I'm basically going to create the videos. I'm going to do the descriptions or the voiceover kind of stuff. And then as I feel necessary in the future, when I put the video together, it's going to, include slides and different things that make it a whole video. And of course the explanations and stuff like that. And also, where I was going with the whole chapters before is I'm now going to go based on objectives. So I'm going to break down chapters by objectives. And through the objectives, that's how I'm going to teach the course. So like, if you look at the first part of a chapter, you would see, and I'll take you to Safari Books Online. I love Safari Books Online, so that's going to be kind of my demo there. But if you go to Safari Books Online, I live there. You can go ahead and bombard that email if you want. It's a crap email. But anyway, so in Safari Books Online, this is a book I'm using as my outline, and that's kind of how I'm going to put the videos together. I'm going to use 2 sources as my outline. So the 2 sources I'm going to use is, if I could go to the top here. What is the deal here? They reconfigured it a little bit. But if you go to like the beginning chapter of this, I didn't want that. But if you go to basic networking concepts, that's what I want. Why are you acting slow? Oh, well, we'll just go ahead on this. Go next there. For the love of Pete. Right. Whatever. Okay, so anyway, the way I'm going to break it down is like objectives here. I have the list of objectives. I'm going to line it up with the objectives of the chapter. And then I'm also going to line it up with the objectives of the actual certification outline. So whenever you do a certification or you study for a certification, when it comes to CompTIA or any certification for that matter, one of the first things that you should do is you should go to their website, whoever the certification provider is, whether it's Microsoft or it's CompTIA in this case, and you should get what the outline is. Okay, so the objectives of the certification. So I'm going to line my videos up with this, and of course use the book as like an outline of like putting it together and having some kind of organization, because they do a pretty good job, and I'll be pimping out Safari books online quite a bit. Any of my past students and the one person that's been leaving comments on this video so far, Jonathan, he is actually a previous student of mine back when I worked for Kaplan College, and he's doing pretty good for himself. Yeah, so he knows basically how I operate, and again, I'll be going by objective and then breaking down each area. So every video I produce, you can basically plan on it covering like an objective area, and then going from there. So that's pretty much how it's going. So if you plan on studying for the CompTIA Net Plus 10-007, you should first go and get your objectives list. And the way you get to that is you go to CompTIA's website, and that address is comptia.org. Once you go to that website, it's going to display for you the go-to certification site or membership site. You could select either one of these and get to either side on either site, but in this case, you're going to want to go to the certification site, and under training, you'll find exam objectives. And once you get in there, it'll ask you for your information. Basically, they want to give you deals and stuff like that. They'll send you emails for discounts on certification, exams and basically vouchers to take certifications. But what you'll want to do is you'll want to fill out this form. You'll want to select the certifications that you're interested in. For example, if you wanted to do A+, Net Plus, Project Plus, you would select those, and then you would hit submit. And once you do that, it will actually take you to and agree to their policy. But once you hit submit, it will take you to another page where you can download the actual objectives, and the objectives look exactly the way the last one I pulled up looked. They lay it out for you. They tell you what to expect during the test. They'll tell you how it was developed, when it was published. This Net Plus exam is a refreshed exam, so therefore it was published last year, I think around August. and so it's fairly new. One of the reasons why I stopped my A+ video series is because the A+ exam that I was going off of, the 9201 or the 9201 and the 9202 or 220. Anyway, yeah, sorry. Anyway, the reason why I got off of those that series is it was getting ready to be retired, and so I kind of felt that I was wasting my time with it and wasting others' time. They're going to be publishing a new version of the A+ exam here in the very near future, and that exam is coming out, I believe, the first quarter of 2019, and that's when I'll actually put video series together for that. But one of the cool things about CompTIA certification exams, if you've never considered taking them before, or you plan to take them now, is if you take, at one point in time, you take the A+ and you take the Net Plus and you take the Security Plus, these exams expire after 3 years. They time out. You have to do what's called continuing education to keep these certifications active. When I originally did my A+ exam, I did it back in 1999. And when I took my A+ exam, it was what they called a life cert, meaning once I took that certification, I was certified A+ technician for life. They ended that practice in 2010. And so now, in order to keep your certification, you have to renew it every 3 years. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, this kind of really sucks because I got my A+, I got my Net Plus, my Security Plus, and you mean I have to do them all over again every 3 years? And that's not the case. The good thing about it is the CompTIA certifications are stackable, meaning by doing certain certifications, you will either automatically get another certification. For example, I forget exactly which certification it is, but the CompTIA has a set of exams that if you take them, you automatically get like this one certification. And you don't really have to test for it. You just got to get the previous exams passed. The other thing that they do is if you take a certification exam on something that is of higher, I guess you want to say, takes a lot more to pass. For example, Net Plus is harder to take than A+. Security Plus is harder to take than Net Plus. So if, let's say, you get your A+, Net Plus, and Security Plus, and in 3 years you have to renew, what you can do is you can actually go back and just take your Security Plus exam over again if you wanted to use that, or you could just bypass the Security Plus exam and go to an exam that is considered, higher than Security Plus. Let's say like Project Plus, and if you take that, it will actually auto-renew Security, Net Plus, and A+. So you'll actually get new, well, this happened with me. I got new cards in the mail when I passed my Net Plus, for the exams underneath the certification I passed. So I passed Net Plus. They sent me out a new certification renewed for A+ when I passed Net Plus, because it's automatically assumed that if you're taking Net Plus, you should know A+, if that makes any sense. So you should be able to keep your certs up pretty easily if you basically follow that. So hopefully you're still getting something out of this. I almost lost my Net Plus, but before it expired. So did they send you out John, did they send you out a card for the new Net Plus? Or at least renew your Net Plus when you pass your Security Plus? I know that's going to take a second for him to respond, but I'm pretty sure that they would have, if he passed his Security Plus and his A Plus was not expired and his Net Plus was not expired, they would have sent him that. He's taking the second part of CCNA. That's cool. John, one of these times I'll have to have you in my studio and do one of these live feeds with me and kind of tell your story. I have fun telling your story because it's one that I'll never forget. Talk about someone that went from being a dishwasher to doing pretty good things. John's a good story, and he's a neat person to talk to. So anyway, so let's go from here. What I'm going to do is, as I said, I'm working out of this book here. This book is called the CompTIA Net Plus. Let me go back to demo. The book that I'm working out of is the CompTIA Net Plus Certification Study Guide. It's the 7th edition. It's for the exam N10-007, and it's and the author of it. Let me go back to. I've been having problems with this website and various things lately, but this is a nice book. I like it a lot. I used to refer to Pearson material quite a bit. I'm now referring to some McGraw-Hill McGraw-Hill education material. And I like this particular book by Glenn E. Clark. I've read some of his other books. He does a very good job on these books. And as you see, I have the digital copy. I don't buy physical books anymore. I again go to Safari Books Online for, I think it's $29.99 a month. You can go on there. By the way, this is not promotional, as they're not paying me. I get nothing out of this. For $29.99 a month, you get access to countless videos. You get probably videos that are better than what I'm doing, unfortunately. But you get just about any technical, business, or design-related book that you want is available on this site. So again, this is the book I'm using to kind of help put this course together, and there will be slides that will indicate that in the actual videos that I put out there. And this is about the most you'll see of this book on my stream, because I don't want to get hit with like a copyright infringement. And some of the other stuff I'm using, I'm not planning to use graphics out of it or anything like that, because I don't want to, breach copyright. I will be using it under fair use. And fair use is when you use bits like clip. I'm not going to even use clips, but like I'm using the book as an outline. I'm not using the actual content of the book. So in that case, I would consider that fair use because I'm creating my own content. But hey, you guys got to see that. Well, there's nothing secret on that anyway, except for what John's saying. So anyway. So I'm going to this next view. I got a light setup to do here. All right, so there's that. All right, so let's do record. So here's into the raw portion of the, this has all been very raw, but now I'm going into where I'm actually trying to record actual content. So hopefully you guys follow along. So I'm going to do some mic resets and stuff like that, and I'm just going to keep the camera rolling while I do it. And If people find this useful, cool. If they don't, they don't. That's fine. So I can't type too fast or near the network security. Oh, okay. I forgot I did have slow-mo on there. I guess I could turn it off. It's not like I have a ton of people on here. Yeah. There you go, John. Slow mode is now off because you're literally right now the only person watching, so it doesn't really bother me all that much. So I'm going to do some reconfig, and then I'm going to be working or covering the first objectives of that book, and that's going to be talking about the characteristics of networking, where I'm going to talk about, John might get tired of this, but I'm going to talk about servers, workstation as hosts, and then I'm going to go and talk about LANs, WANs, MANs, also CANs and PANs and all that fun stuff, and then hopefully get into talking about network topologies and stuff like that. My plan is to kind of go until maybe 10 or 11 o'clock and kind of go from there. So anyway, so let me get set up for the next shot and go from there. I turn it on all cameras, so I guess you guys can see what I'm doing. Hey, nice shot of my butt, I guess. Okay, there's that. Or that, and then see here. So I don't know if you can see here or not, but I have a few things I got set up here. Because of the problems I had previously with recording videos, I've put some backups into place. I have over here a Tascam 4-channel recorder. I'm only using one channel on it right now, but basically I have my shotgun mic going into the Tascam, and then from the Tascam I got it going to my mixing board, and that's recording directly onto the video that's being recorded through OBS. And then I'm using that as not only a backup, but if I don't get really good video or really good audio through the actual live recording, then what I'll do is I'll take the memory chip out of that recording device and match it up in Premiere and get that all going. Which reminds me, I probably should clap a couple of times to do the sync part of it. Also, if you look on my desk, again, all of my cameras are webcams right now. So unfortunately, you're basically gonna have to put up with me showing you know, different sides here. But anyway, from a distance, and again, I'm making notes as I go, so I'll correct this later. But I also have a Zoom recorder here as well, and this is a 4-channel as well, and it is actually recording 4 channels. So because of the audio problems I had before, what I ended up doing was I got kind of lucky. I got this Zoom recorder for free, believe it or not. It is let me pick it up and tell you exactly what it is. It's a H4n Pro. And it was kind of funny. What happened was on Amazon, I went and purchased the Tascam, and I was a little bit too cheap. I had seen this recorder here and almost bought it, but I was like, oh man, that's a little bit expensive. I'm not going to get it. So I ended up getting the Tascam, and for the Tascam, I bought a case to protect it. So if I were to take it out of the studio and go record somewhere else, or do recordings like I'm involved in VMUG and stuff like that for the local chapter here. And I was like, you know, if I use it for recording or something, I want to protect it going from whatever location to whatever location. So what I did is I bought a protective case. It's a black case with a zipper, and inside it has a plastic protection case as well. So I ordered that. It was like $11, and the Tascam that I bought was, I think, $179 when I purchased it. And at the time I saw the Zoom was like $250, $269, something crazy like that. I think it may have even been a little bit more than that. And so what happened was I did 2-day shipping. 2 days later, I get what I expected was the Tascam. And I opened it up, checked it out like you do. You do the uncracking the box, ooh, all new and all that good stuff. And I was checking it out, and I went to go get the case that I purchased for it, and it felt kind of heavy to me. I'm like, that doesn't feel right. I opened it up, and this Zoom was inside the thing. And I tried to contact the seller, and the seller didn't respond to me. So I got pretty much $279 piece of equipment for $11. I'm not going to complain. Yeah, that's what's doing my backup audio. So I got that Zoom set up so that the microphones on the front are recording in stereo both directions. And then I have, you have a good night, John. I'll see you later, man. So I have the Zoom set up to record individual channels on the front through the 2 microphones on front, and then I have my soundboard going into that Zoom so that it actually records the additional 2 channels from the sound, the right and left from the soundboard. So, and they're all individually recorded on individual channels, so I can segregate what I'm pulling off of it, and hopefully get some good audio and some stuff that I can work with. So I got kind of a backup on a backup. And what's kind of nice is through the soundboard, I'll only activate the boom mic when I fill, or the shotgun mic when I am going to use it, kind of thing. But it's actually through the Tascam, the way I have it set up, it's constantly it's recording the audio the whole time. So if I lose audio on the Zoom, if I lose audio on the computer, which more than likely I'll probably lose the video at the same time and have to re-record, but I have all the audio, so I got backup for backup right now. Anyway, so let's go over to the bench. Sorry if you have headphones on. That was not the plan to kill your headphones. I'll try to give people more of a warning in the future. So anyway, we might have a mascot come into the room every once in a while. His name's Io. I-O is in input output. That's my dog's name. He's kind of cool. So let's go this way. See, I changed my mind quite a bit, and well, you'll either watch this live stream or you won't, and well, we'll go kind of from there. Let's let's go to, let's go through, not on. Man, did I totally missed one whole shot. Note to self, create new shot. Front talk. Oh man, I've totally skipped that altogether. Let me see if I can do this. Get to find out new stuff as you're doing it. It's kind of fun. Oh, I'm doing that all on, I forgot I turned off my front mic, but it looks like I'm getting good audio levels. So hopefully the audio is not too bad, but let me do this. I'm going to go to stream setup. It's front top cam. Let's do mobile cam. There we go. Alrighty. So let's do that. And all my videos I plan on doing very, very raw. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll go from there. We'll see how this works. So disconnected. We're still live, so that's good. All right, so the first thing that we're going to cover in the first section I'm going to record on is okay, good. All right. So, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to record. See, messed up there. Anyway, I'll look all right there and do that. Let's do this here. Move that a little bit. There we go. Here. Check, check, 1, 2. Okay. All right. So welcome to my channel. That's probably the wrong way to do it. I'm going to do introductions later, and heck with that. Anyway, in the future I'll have better scripts, but I figured, what the hell. So, let's see, CompTIA 67 Network. So, all right, so in studying the Net Plus exam, you're going to need to know the different characteristics of a network and what exists on a network. So on a network is defined as a collection of devices that are connected together. Okay, so you can think of a network as anything that has a connection to another device, as far as like a computer or even a Internet of Things device. Okay, if it's connected either wirelessly or wired to either multiple devices within your house or external to your house, is considered a network. Okay, so in your house, if you have a router that was put there by AT&T or Spectrum or one of those companies, and you got your computer in your room connected to it, Xbox connected to it, a smart TV, your cell phone, you have in your house your own network. Okay, and a network in your house set up like that is more likely going to be called a LAN, or a local area network. A local area network usually consists of a network that is located in one area, okay, meaning it's in a building or a house. Some people define it as being on multiple floors. Some people don't. It depends on how the network is set up, how it's segregated. This might be a little bit over your head right now, but basically in the future of this course, we'll explain more of how networks are connected and how they are defined. Okay, and matter of fact, in this course, you'll actually learn about what the difference of a LAN, a WAN, and all that is. So starting off, we're going to talk about servers, workstations, and hosts. And by and there, otherwise known as nodes. Okay, so one of the things that you need to know about any book you read or anything that you study is usually the first chapter is the overview chapter. It gives you an overview of what you're going to learn. So some of the stuff I cover in this section will later be covered in more detail in the future. However, since we are trying to do these videos objective based, I will cover as much in depth on the subject that I bring up as I can, so that you get as much understanding out of it as humanly possible, and you're really prepared for that test. Okay, so we're talking again about servers, workstations, and hosts. Okay, and very simply, a server is a overbuilt machine, basically, and it can exist as a standalone server. It can exist as a virtual server, and again, all this we cover in the future, but there's multiple different types of servers. Okay, we have what's called file servers, we have print servers, we have web application servers, we have SQL servers. All these types of servers, the one thing that they have in common is their sole existence is to basically sit there and provide information. A real server, there should never really be anyone sitting at that machine. Okay, it used to be said, well, what if a technician or engineer needs to work on it? They'll have to sit at it. Or some doctor's offices that I've gone to in the past, they'll have the server for their practice under the desk where the receptionist is. That's not the best place to do it, and they'll typically use that server as like a dual purpose, and it's the server for the office, and at the same time it's the workstation that person uses at the office. That's a bad idea, because servers by definition are to store information. They're supposed to centralize information, and so in that being the case, if you had someone working on that machine directly, you take a high risk, because if that person's using that computer as a workstation, they have a chance of getting that server infected with a virus, getting it infected with malware, which is basically a virus, but there's different types of viruses. There's malwares, there's worms. Malware stands for malicious software of any sort. So a malicious software can be software that's just advertising to you like crazy and causing other problems. It may not be its purpose to be a virus, but through its pure actions, it is in fact malicious in a way, right? So the idea with servers is servers usually sit in a back room somewhere in either what's called a data center or a communications closet, hopefully cooled. But typically you want a server behind 2 locked doors, and you want to protect that thing, because since it stores your information centrally, if it's set up correctly, it can be your single point of failure as well. So you always want to run backups on that. Most servers are not, a lot of people think that they can go to like Best Buy and pick up a computer at Best Buy and turn it into a server. And the problem with that is computers at Best Buy, or workstations in general, are not designed to be servers. Okay, servers have components in them that make them redundant. For example, a server will have multiple hard drives. If it's a physical box, it'll have multiple hard drives set in a RAID configuration, whether that's a RAID 1, a RAID 5, or a RAID 10, something of redundancy. Basically, redundancy allows you to recover information if there's a failure somewhere. For example, if you had a RAID 5, you could lose literally one whole hard drive and you'll have all your information. The server will run slower, but you'll have all your information. Versus if you went to Best Buy, I keep saying Best Buy, but really I mean any store that sells computers. You go to any store that sells computers, you buy a computer off the shelf there and call that your server. Those typically have one hard drive in them, and hard drives fail, and you're basically up a creek very quickly. Okay, so going back to what a server is a piece of hardware, okay, that can host information on it, okay, or basically provide information. Workstations usually communicate with a server to get additional information. A good example of a big collection of servers would be the internet. The internet is a collection of connected servers that provide services to users or users of workstations at your home to get information. So the definition of server has changed quite a bit over time. The one thing that's always remained the same with the definition of a server is it is a device that provides information. It is a device that sits on the network, and its primary purpose is to provide information. It's not to be used as a workstation or worked as a personal computer. It is just to sit there, store information, and provide information. And that's it. That's all it's supposed to do. Okay? So, and what I mean by server's definition changing a little bit is servers now can be virtual. Okay? We use a lot of virtual technology in this day and age. Now, when people hear virtual, they say, oh, it's in the cloud, or oh, it's here or it's there, and I never see it. Well, that can be kind of true. You can have a server in the cloud where you pay for services of AWS or Azure and have those servers in the cloud. And basically what that is there's actually on the other end a physical device that houses that virtual machine, which is also a server. Okay, so you'll have a physical box, and on that physical box, stored on that physical box, is multiple virtual machines. Okay, and they'll use different cores, and they'll have access to, the same memory as basically. Virtual machines will describe how those work in the future. It uses a hypervisor and all kinds of stuff. It gets very technical, but basically a server can be a physical box or it can be a virtual machine. Okay, and a physical server box can host many what they call guest machines on that box. Okay, so one physical box can hold a crazy amount of servers in this day and age. At where I work right now, some of our hosts that we have, or some of the server, what they call VNX servers that we have, they can hold like 25 servers on one physical box. Okay, so it can be kind of confusing at times, but you just need to know by definition. So if you were going to get to the nit and gritty of it, by definition, a server is a device that provides information on the network. Okay, and that's its primary purpose. Now to workstations. Workstations are the actual machines that you, as a user or a client of a network, use to interact with either the internet, the server, or the network as a whole, or even locally on that box. So for example, on the computer behind me here, I am using, at this current moment, I'm using multiple cloud services. One to do my live stream, the other one to do my actual recording and broadcast of the live stream. And that's storing information not only in the cloud to a server in the cloud, but it's also storing information onto my local box or my local client or machine. And this would be considered a either personal computer, which we all know what that is, PC, right? basically a workstation is a PC that connects to a network. Okay, has network connectivity. Whether it's going to do what you'll learn later, which is a client-server connection or a peer-to-peer connection, and we'll describe that later. But basically, what you need to know right now is a workstation, unlike a server, has typically one hard drive. Typically has less RAM than that of a server. A server will have a ton of RAM in it to provide services. It will typically, a workstation will have better graphics capability over a server. Again, since a server sits in a data closet or something like that, typically you're not going to have a very strong video card on it. You may just have built-in graphics for that. A lot of times with a workstation, you'll have higher end graphics, especially if you got someone that's doing like AutoCAD or something like that. It needs more video or more video rendering demand. So a workstation typically doesn't have as much storage as a server, does not have the redundancy of a server, and so therefore is not built to be a server. Okay, so a workstation is defined as a client on a network that gets information from a server or from other network connected sources. Okay, and so typically if you go to work and you sit down at a computer at work, if that computer is connected to the network and thereby a server or other services provided outside of that physical computer, it is a workstation. Okay, and it is providing you that information. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about hosts. Host is a definition that they want you to know in CompTIA as far as Net Plus. So is server and workstation, of course. But a host is anything on the network that has the ability to transfer information. Okay, and what I mean by that is a host should be able to get information and transfer information. So by definition, a server is a host, a workstation is a host, and so is a switch. And I don't know if you would really consider a hub a host. It basically hub rebroadcasts information. It doesn't really like do anything with the information. A firewall would be considered a host. So a term that has kind of gone to the wayside, a lot of people don't use anymore. But before we used host a lot, we used a term called node. And a node was anything that connected to the network. It didn't have to transfer information or anything like that. It just had to connect to the network. So a host is a device on the network that can receive and send information. Okay? If it receives information and it sends information, it's a host. Okay? If it's a node, it's just a connected device on the network. It doesn't matter what it does. If it's a PLC switch, okay, PLC is a process logical control, I think is the term for that. But it's basically what a PLC does is it sits on like a network and it waits for a command, and once it gets a command, it does something, and that's all it does. It doesn't really send information back and forth. It just waits for a command and does a task. That's usually what a PLC does. So that wouldn't exactly be considered a host. It would be considered a node. Okay, it's a device on the network that sits on the network, and that's basically all it does. Okay. All right, so that would be one clip, and just go like. Chuck D, this is true. I like that. All right, so moving on. Okay, my notes right now are actually like paper notes, but I plan on changing that here very soon. I got a teleprompter app today on my iPad, and that's why you kind of see it on in the background. But okay, so next we're gonna cover lands, mans, and yeah, woohoo! All right, so I'm gonna reset for that because I want to. I'm gonna show me this. I'm gonna do that because you guys are gonna see me do that bigger, so you can see that I'm doing another view that I forgot to actually create. So I'm gonna go to my bench stream. That's how I plan to have these. Or these live streams are again gonna be very raw, and I just really want to make a change on here. So I'm gonna add another. Okay, I got Elgato switch here. So do that Elgato switch. I'll move to the side so I guess you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Elgato switch, go to my bench. Should have known better because it's empty switch right now, but I'm going to add a view. So I'm going to add, let's see, I guess I can do a bigger camera view. I don't know if it'll let me do two, so what we'll do is, we'll make this work. I'll work it around. We'll do something with this. All right. Okay, so we'll do this. All right. Okay. So we're gonna have fun with a whiteboard here. Hopefully, oh, I see focus on that. That should be focusing. Give me one sec. I forgot I had to restart the computer. When I tried to start this stream, I had an issue with the stream going live. And so in doing that, I had to restart the computer, and it caused a problem with my setup. So give me a second here. So I'm gonna go here, configure video, stream control, turn that crap off. Oh wow, that was really bad. Okay, turn off focus, off exposure. Should have done this before I went live, but I went live and I didn't have much of a choice. I had, again, an issue going live, and video here, turn those two off, good. Okay, and do this one. Video, turn off that autofocus crap. Alright, here we go. So Chuck D the Jedi. I like that name. Okay there, and then front view. Hopefully this didn't do too much focusing while I was talking. I do a lot of talking apparently. We'll get through a couple more things here and then go from there. All right. Alrighty. So do that and then go back to bench. There we go. We're back to bench. We'll go to actual record time. All right. Alrighty. Let's see here. I get better lighting over here. There we go. All right. So might have to change that configuration a little bit. All right. So look over here. See how I look real quick. Check in my stream if you can see my face all right. All right, so you can see my face all right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cover lands, mans, and so on and so forth. So I described when, no, I got to play like this as a new video, don't I? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. All right. So what we're going to talk about now is we're going to talk about the different types of network, like segmentations that we have, and how they relate to each other. So we're going to talk about LANs, WANs, MANs, CANs, PANs, and a couple other ones. There's a few, and let's see here. Yeah, so we had someone join our stream, quite awesome. Anyway, so we're gonna, let me actually do this. Go with, yeah, that'll work. Okay. So a LAN, okay, stands for local area network. Sorry about my writing. Hopefully it gets better over time. It's been a while since I've had to use a whiteboard. Okay, local area network. And what that basically means is a LAN is a network that exists in either a home or an office. Okay, and even more detailed on that, a LAN is a network that exists in one building, okay, or one location. So if you were at a school and a campus of buildings, right? So there's multiple buildings on the campus. The network in one of those buildings would be considered a LAN. Just as a network in your house, connecting your Xbox, connecting your smart TV, if you got an alarm system that connects to your Wi-Fi or a Nest, you know, Internet of Connected Things kind of thing, or basically any of those devices, all of them connected within your home. For example, in my home, I got like 4 computers. In my home, that is a LAN. Okay, my LAN connects to a WAN, but typically LANs, or local area networks, are private networks that exist in one location. Okay, they may communicate with other networks, but the network itself exists in one location. It is not spread across globally. It is not spread across the city or campus or multiple buildings. It is one building, one location. Okay, so that's a LAN. Okay, we build up from there. So we go next to what we call from a LAN, and we'll just leave that up here, LAN. I'll just do that, and I'll go from there. Anyway, so we'll start off with the LAN, right? and then we go to what's called a WAN. Okay, and a WAN is a wide area network. You'll find out in the computer industry that everything that we do in the computer industry is an acronym of something. So when we say LAN, we call the local area network. BIOS on a computer, if you're studying A+, a BIOS is a basic input-output system. So everything, one thing especially in Network Plus, you're going to have to get really used to using acronyms, because everything is an acronym. If you talk about FTP, FTP is File Transfer Protocol. HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. You know, you just got to get really used to acronyms. And so our second acronym that we're going to talk about is WAN, Wide Area Network. And the reason why I left LAN up here is, by definition, by definition, a WAN is a collection of LANs. Okay? It is a collection of LANs connected together make a WAN. And a WAN can be global. Okay? It can be within a building, it can be within a campus, it can be across a city. By definition, a WAN is a wide area network. It can travel distances, and the best example of a WAN is the internet. The internet is a WAN. Essentially what the internet is it's a massive collection of LANs, people's houses, servers, offices, all connected together. Okay? That connection is so big that most of the time when we talk about the internet, we draw it as a cloud. Matter of fact, some savvy marketers got wind of this, and instead of calling internet services internet services, or software as a service, or hardware as a service, or connectivity as a service, or any of those items that we typically work with in the industry, they now call this the cloud. So it is more likely nowadays that instead of just hearing the internet, or someone refer to a service in the internet as being an internet service, they'll call it a cloud. And where they got that from is in our network diagrams that technicians used to create, we would always designate this massive collection of connections that no one could really pinpoint as a cloud. And it would, it would be detailed on a network diagram like a cloud, and right in the middle of that sucker, it would say internet. And then we would say, okay, we have servers connected to this cloud. So let's say I do a server down here. We have this server is doing our web page service, or our web service. Okay, it's doing our web service, and we would say, okay, it's connected to the cloud, so it has a ingoing and outgoing connection. So we would either depict it by doing that, or we would do like a lightning bolt, because this was the cloud, so we would do like a lightning bolt and say, okay, this server is connected to the cloud. It may be connected through a router or firewall before it gets there, but just for simplicity, we're going to say this server is connected to the internet or the cloud, okay? And the internet itself is, by definition, the ultimate WAN, or wide area network. So a wide area network can extend from, for example, you can have a location in Sacramento, and your company that you work for has another location in Dubai, okay? And I'm terrible with spelling, so I'm dyslexic as they get. So what we would say is, okay, we have a server over here. It is connected to a firewall, and usually a firewall is like depicted as actually a wall in a network diagram. So a firewall would be an actual wall, okay? It's connected to a firewall, maybe connected to a router in between or something like that, and then it'd be connected to the cloud. And then, so this would be our location in Sacramento, call that SAC, and then across the world, or on the other side of the world, we'd be connected to Dubai, which would go through another firewall. You guys get the gist of that. Connected to another router, which usually is depicted by an O with the arrows going back and forth, or there's different ways of depicting that, and then connected to a server. Okay? And so, and it would connect to whatever device. So, again, that's how we defined it. So, again, a WAN is a collection of multiple LANs. Okay? So now we get to the funner ones. So in this industry, in the IT industry, the most you'll hear about is LANs and WANs. So LANs and WANs it's widely used. Again, if you're in one office building, that network is a LAN. If you're connected to another office building across, the country or whatever, that is now considered a WAN. Okay? And typically, as I said earlier, if you're on a multi-building campus, let's say you work for Microsoft, you could call that also a WAN, because it's, by definition, again, it's multiple LANs connected together, and therefore it's a wide connected network, and it can be defined as a WAN. However, in the Net Plus certification exam, they are going to want you to be more granular with it. So you're going to start using terms that we typically don't use in the IT industry, because we're technicians. We're lazy. I mean, if we can get something done fast, we try to do it fast, unless your name is Jacob and you're making a video. But the thing is what we'll do is we'll have different definitions for different things, and what you need to know is you need to know the next one is a man. Now you may be thinking to yourself, this is a bit sexist. Again, everything that we use in the IT industry is an acronym. So we're not saying I am man and I am more important than anyone else and no women should come along. That's not what we're saying here. We are breaking this up again. And of course this remains the same. So we have area network. Basically, it doesn't matter what term you talk about, as far as when we talk about network segments or defined network segments, we talk about either LANs, WANs, or so on and so forth. But MAN stands for Metro metropolitan. I'm dyslexic, so please forgive me on making sure I don't mess this up. Metropolitan. Yeah, there we go. Is a metropolitan area network. Okay, so MAN in network terms stands for Metropolitan Area Network. And what this is a metropolitan area network is a network of multiple LANs. It could be anywhere from 2 to 10 if you wanted. But the big thing about it is they exist in one geographical location, okay? Usually no bigger than like a city, okay? So if I were in, let's say, LA, and I had a location in South LA, I had a location downtown, I had a location in, let's even say off of Disneyland. So let's say Disney. They'll probably try to take down my video because I said their name. But basically, if LA, let's say this was Central LA, so Cent. Okay, so if we had our location here, and we had our location here, and here, and here, these would each be defined as LANs, okay? So Disney would be a LAN, South LA would be a LAN, Central LA would be a LAN, Downtown LA would be a LAN, okay, our local area network. Then connected together, and the fact that they're in one geographical location, let's say south bottom of California, okay, those in particular one major city, that would be considered metropolitan. Therefore, this would be called a metropolitan network. Could this also be termed as a WAN? Yes, but more correctly, it would be called a MAN, or a metropolitan area network. And you need to know this, very important, and I've taken the Network Plus test a couple of times, and I can tell you this, that this question is asked, and they do try to trick you. So you need to know the differences in the sizes, okay? And to tell you honestly, in the Net Plus exam, this is going to be the only time that you're really questioned about what a metropolitan area network is. The next one is one that I have an argument with at work with coworkers all the time, is what's defined as a campus. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the campus area network, or CAN, okay? And a CAN is, as I said, CAN stands for campus area network. Okay, so campus area network, and this is the argument I get in with all the time with my coworkers. Well, a couple of coworkers, not all of them, but I'll call the place that I work at a campus, okay? And I'll call it a campus because at our location we have multiple buildings. Sorry about my terrible building designs, but we'll just call these buildings. Okay, terrible drawing, you're getting this for free. Don't complain too much, right? So, campus area network is defined as a network of LANs okay, a network of LANs in a single location, okay? So it could be multiple buildings, but they're in a single location. So where people get tripped up is with this word, campus. Because automatically when you hear campus, you think of university or school. If you look it up in a dictionary, it will say school campus or a collection of buildings for a university or something like that. But in networking terms, a campus or a can be any network that is multiple LANs, okay, or multiple buildings in one location, okay? So you could almost put it this way. You could say that we already know what a LAN is, a local area network. It exists in one location, right? So it exists in one building, one office, one home, what have you, okay? So if we connect a CAN together, okay, those LANs together equal a CAN. We can then connect our network or our campus network to the internet, which is a WAN, okay? If our company, which I work for a company that does do this, we have other locations, and our other locations have multiple buildings, okay, connected together, so they're technically CANs or campus area networks, and they're all connected, all the CANs are connected together as a WAN, okay? You can kind of see where this gets a little bit confusing. And so what we do is, since us technicians or people that work in the industry, we're lazy. We cut things out. We don't say CAN, we say LANs in that one location, that's a WAN. That WAN is connected to this WAN, so on and so forth, okay? Don't get too confused by it. You can connect multiple WANs together. You can connect multiple CANs together, but the way they would connect is through a WAN, because again, the CAN only exists within that location. So if I was in a location in Texas, this Texas location, Texas, if I could say it right, or write it right. Anyway, this location, this CAN, multiple LANs connected together, a CAN, can be connected to another location, let's say in Camden, New Jersey or something like that, and I may be using that because I'm going to be traveling there soon, but that location can have multiple buildings, which are LANs, connected together is a CAN. It's a campus, okay? And going even further, if you want to get even more deeper, is if you had multiple locations in the same city, those, and each location had multiple buildings, you could have a CAN there, and then you could connect those together, and those would become a MAN, all right? A metropolitan area network. So LANs are the smallest as far as like connectivity wise, as like if you're running network cable and stuff like that. Also wireless, right? Matter of fact, wireless networks, we'll be talking about that here very shortly. But these all connect up and go up. And I know I'm going a little bit deeper in it than a book would, but I feel it's important that you understand it, because you may look at this and go, well, this is easy. The problem is if you mistake a CAN for a WAN, or a metropolitan or a MAN for a WAN in the exam, you'll miss that question, and it goes towards your overall score. So remember, you need a 720 to pass the Net Plus exam. The last thing you want to do is fail that exam on a question that you thought was stupid in the first place. I know what a LAN is, I know what a WAN is. And you can argue semantics all day, but they're not going to listen. They're going to test you on what you should know. And so going down the list again, and I find myself repeating myself a lot, but it's important that I do. A LAN is the smallest network that we have for as far as physical location. Next would be a CAN, or campus area network. After that would be a MAN, which would be a metropolitan, so a whole city network. And then beyond that, we would go to a WAN, or a wide area network. So a wide area network covers a large geographic area, right? So I would easily venture to say that WAN gets misrepresented most of the time, because again, a couple guys at work consider our network there a WAN, and I'm like, no. Guys, it's a CAN. And by definition, if you were taking the exam, they would want you to answer that yes, it is a CAN, and it is not a WAN. Okay? So, next we go to what a PAN is. And if you're following along, hopefully you can figure out what a PAN is. So PAN is a personal area network. Okay? Personal area network. And very simply put, if you carry a cell phone around with you, or you carry your iPad around with you, the connection between your cell phone and your iPad or another type of computer device like the cell phone is not considered a PAN. That would again be considered a LAN. Okay, so anything that's connected that like has a processor in it and is connected via wireless to each other is usually like a LAN. Okay, a PAN, or a personal area network, is like the devices that are connected to this, like my Apple Watch. My Apple Watch communicates with my iPhone via Bluetooth. Okay, and Bluetooth is a wireless technology that has a very short distance that it can travel, but it's connected directly to my personal device. Okay, so I could have, for example, my wireless headphones. Those are also Bluetooth. They connect to my cell phone. So basically a PAN, or personal area network, is a network of devices connected to basically your person. Okay, so it's everything that you have that kind of connects to your device as you walk around. So you could almost think of it as like an extended personal space kind of sphere, right? So like when people walk close to you, you have this personal space kind of issue. If someone gets in your personal space, you start feeling a little skittish and stuff like that. Well, think of that space and then expand it out about 30 feet. Sometimes some devices, like newer technology with Bluetooth and stuff like that, they're traveling at greater distances, but a a Bluetooth device, I've got it to where I can almost go all the way across the house before it really disconnects. But it will disconnect before my wireless Wi-Fi will, right? Before my Wi-Fi connection to my internet will, okay? If I take off my earphones and walk out of the room, they're going to lose communication with my cell phone, okay? That's how small the area it is, okay? So a PAN is a very small area network, okay? And it's smaller, again, smaller than a LAN and all that good stuff. So if we were going in terms of size of network, we'd say PAN, personal area network, is the smallest. Next would be LAN, would be a little bit bigger than a PAN, right? Or a lot bigger depending on the network. Then CAN, or campus area network, MAN, metropolitan area network, and then WAN, wide area network. Okay. Also, the last one that we gotta cover on this, and I'll close up this video, and we'll move on to, probably end up recording another video. But the next thing we're gonna talk about is what we call a WLAN. And hopefully I'm not giving anything away by saying that this is definitely local area network. Hopefully you can guess what the W is. W is wireless. Okay, wireless area network. Okay, so again, the definition of LAN does not change. Okay, a WAN, or a WLAN, or WLAN would be a wireless local area network within a single building or single floor. Okay. Wireless doesn't go the distance that a cable would go, right? Like we can connect multiple switches in a building. We can even create what's called a mesh wireless network where they all connect together. But basically they're going to be, a wireless network is going to be contained within a building. In order to get it to go to another building, if you were going to stay wireless, you would have to shoot it to the other building via a directional antenna, and those are not 100% reliable. So more than likely what you're going to do is, if you had multiple buildings and you had multiple people bringing personal devices, okay, unless it's really hard to get a line from here to there, that's what you're going to do. Hopefully, in the process of building your buildings, you've ran a dedicated tube that allows you to tube communications cable from one building to the next, right? So if you're in IT and you're part of planning an expansion of a building or even a new campus, you would make sure, or the people that you have doing your networking planning and installation, they would plan for conduit tubing that goes from building to building that you can run your cable through, right? But there's some cases where you don't have that option, right? So in each building, if you have wireless set up in the building, that would be considered a wireless LAN for each building. Okay. Also in that building, would more likely, to even get the wireless working, you would also have to have a dedicated LAN, or local area network. So you would have a local area network connected to the wireless LAN. okay? And, you know, there are different types of wireless network connections that you can do, and I'll have to do a more detailed video on this. But when you talk about wireless, you have different types of wireless you can use. Obviously, you've already heard of Wi-Fi. We talked about it earlier. But you can also have things like infrared, which isn't highly used anymore. It kind of sucked because you had to have line of sight to make it work. But the thing is if you went into a situation where you had pre-existing buildings and someone didn't do proper planning on it, you could put an antenna on that building, a directional antenna on this building, and they would basically communicate directly together, right? And the only way you could get it to really work is if you had directional antenna, because omnidirectional, I'm going too deep into it, but it would essentially, you lose signal on omnidirectional over a directional. So, yeah. So anyway, wireless LAN is the same thing as a LAN, just it's wireless versus being wired. There's different technologies that you can use for wireless LANs. The most common is going to be a standard called 802.11. 802.11, and that's a wireless standard. Okay. Typically, when you buy a router, you'll either buy 802.11n. You're going to learn more about these later. 802.11a. They have AC now. They used to have B. All these have meaning, and you'll learn that in the future. But most typically, a local area network is taken care of as part of the 802.11 standard, and it's considered Wi-Fi. There are other networks that use other communication, but again, this is going to be your most standard type of connection. Okay. Got anyone with me, or are we still? Okay, still just by myself. All right, so that is a video. All right. Is this sounding all right? Yeah, that's looking like it's sounding all right. All right. Next, so I'm gonna start content for, I guess, the next video, and this is this will probably be next to the final. Obviously, that last one, I'll cut some things out of it, because I tend to go a little bit long, and I know that, but I like to make sure people understand the information. So going over, I like it. I'm doing videos on technology, yet I use paper a lot of times to take my notes. So next we're going to talk about the types of networks. Okay, and so the different types of networks we have. We're going to talk about basically 5 in general. So the main ones that we're going to talk about are peer-to-peer. I don't know why I wrote it. Let's redo that one. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the types of network. We're going to talk about 5 networks in general, or types of networks in general. And so the first one we're going to work out with is peer-to-peer. Okay, and a peer-to-peer, in its simplest form, is 2 computers. I used to draw these a lot better than I draw them now. Connected together. So if you were to take a network cable and connect one end of the network cable to the network port on one computer, and the network take the other end of the network cable and connect it to the computer on the other end, and those computers were directly connected, and we, for example, gave this computer address of 192.168.1.1, and then 192.168.1.2, and we were to give them 255. I can't write. 255, 255, 255, 0, and just repeat that over here. We'll talk more about what these are in later videos, but the IP addresses, it's a way of addressing your computer. Technically, if I were to connect one peer to one peer computer, one computer to the next, I would all I would have to do is connect what's called a crossover cable from this computer to this computer, and they would self-address. Okay, and the reason why they would self-address is because there's nothing else telling them what to address, and by default, this network cable and this network, or this network card and this network card, by default in most Windows operating systems is set to get what's called a dynamic IP address. Okay, an IP address that's automatically assigned, and if there's no DHCP server, the computer or the software, being Microsoft in this case, in my example, would automatically give itself its own address. Okay, and its own address, when I'm talking about IPs, I'll actually do it. It's like 252, and so it's 169.252 or something like that. It's I gotta refresh it to tell you the truth. But anyway, these two would get an address of some sort, and they could communicate back and forth. So to make a peer-to-peer work, all you need is two computers and a crossover cable between two network cards, and you would have a peer-to-peer. You can also have a peer-to-peer via wireless. If you were to do a wireless connection, this one's wireless and this one's wireless, you can have a peer-to-peer, just marked up my speaker, you could have a peer-to-peer based on connecting what's called an ad hoc. So ad hoc wireless, basically you set up this one, this computer to connect to any ad hoc connection it can find, and you set up this one to connect to any ad hoc connection it can find. These will communicate together, they'll set up their own IP address, and then they will communicate. So you have peer-to-peer, very simply, is two computers directly communicating with each other. Now a peer-to-peer can also exist in a larger network, but by definition, if you want to define a peer-to-peer network is any computer that communicates with another computer, okay? Or very simply, a workstation that communicates with another workstation. Okay, so it doesn't matter if they're part of a large network or whatever, but if this one workstation connects to another workstation, for example, let's say you're at work and you're talking to a coworker and you're like, hey, I have a shared folder on my computer I have a shared folder on my computer. I put a file in there. I opened it up to everyone. Connect to it and get the file. If this user over here connected, got that file, went back, this would be considered a peer-to-peer connection because they're communicating directly to each other. Okay. Also, another way you'll know if you're in a peer-to-peer situation, especially like a defined peer-to-peer connection, is if you're in a work group. If you're in a business that has no servers, okay, they have no servers on the network, they don't have what's called a centralized Active Directory or a centralized user directory or a centralized share, you're more likely in a peer-to-peer network, okay? So if you were working for like a real estate office, I've done a lot of work for real estate offices, and typically what they'll have is they'll have a connection to the internet, going into their office. They'll have like some Linksys, that's a brand of router, by the way. They'll have like a Linksys router that's connected to their internet, and this, we'll talk about this later, but this will be a public connection, and past the Linksys it'll be a private. Okay, so we got public and private, so they'll have that, and then this connection here goes from the Linksys. Some Linksys have multiple ports on the back. They'll go from that Linksys to multiple computers on the network. And so all communication between computer A to computer D, okay, will go through that Linksys router to the other computer, but they'll essentially just be peer-to-peer. There's no authentication that happens. If there were authentication set up, there would have to be a logon for the person over here, and a logon for the person over here. Basically, you would have to, every time, I'll go into this in more detail later, but whatever authentication you have set here, you would have to have set here. And they would have to allow that communication. But peer-to-peer, we're still talking about peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer, again, is a communication between any computer on a network that does not have a server set up or anything like that. Can they still connect to the internet? Yeah, they got like a Linksys router there. They can still connect to the internet. But aside from connecting to the internet for cloud services or whatever, they are peer-to-peer. Now, the other thing that we have is we have what's called a client-server network. Okay, and basically what happens is we'll have one server, okay, or multiple servers that store things. Like we could have what we would call our AD server here, our file server here, and let's say our print server here. Okay, and what will typically happen, and let's just say for that works. So these servers can be connected to a switch, and again I'll go in more detail later on what a switch is and and so on and so forth. But we'll have the cloud, which will have the internet, of course. Okay, and there's a reason why I'm doing this, why I'm going a little bit more detailed on this. Okay, so we'll have our router, or our firewall. So we'll have a firewall here. Going into our router. Here, so connection, and then this router would go into a switch. This switch would connect to servers, which would connect to probably more switches, because the only time that you're going to really have a client-server kind of situation is when you have a network big enough to justify having a server. And the reason why I say that is servers are very expensive. Even the smallest server can be upwards of $5,000 to $6,000 because again they hold multiple hard drives and they're built to be servers. Okay, so you'll have this set up, and then down here you'll have your clients. Oh, I botched that up so bad. Okay, so you'll have your clients, and I guess we could say even like something stupid is like a person, right? I'm not saying people are stupid, but well, some people are, but let's hope not. But anyway, so in a client, just imagine that these guys are computers as well. But in a client-server situation, what'll happen is most information is stored up in these servers. Multiple clients can access one file on a file server and work with it. Multiple people, let's say this print server is connected to a printer. In order for your company to save money, I've gone into customers' locations where every user has a printer on their desk. I've gone into locations where it's like they never heard of like the fact that we're trying to save trees or to go paperless. So what they'll do is they'll have a printer on everyone's desk, and so Mr. Lazy here doesn't have to go across the room to a big printer to get their paper. Okay? The problem is, in that kind of situation, each person with their own printer requires their own toner or own ink or own paper supply or this or that, and usually no one's keeping track of what they're printing and how much they're printing and how many supplies they're going through and so on and so forth. So what ends up happening in a situation what ends up happening in a situation like this is you spend a ton of money on all these printers. It is much cheaper to have like a printer on one side of the room, basically a centralized shared printer. So what happens is in a client server kind of setup, when you connect to this workstation, you don't have a printer here, your printer's over here, and you usually have some kind of print server up in your network somewhere, so that when you hit the print button here, that communication goes up here, goes to the print server then communicates with the printer and prints out your paper. Okay? And the client server situation is you are centralizing your data now. For example, if we're talking about AD and in this terms is Active Directory. Active Directory is the most widely used directory service in Microsoft networks. That's what runs a Microsoft network is Active Directory. Okay, everything's stored in that. So what happens is, if you remember from my previous example, I said computer A when connecting to computer D, if they were using authentication, if these computers weren't completely open to every communication, computer D and computer A would have to have the same user list on each one. Same user list, same password. Okay? And the only way that that's getting created is if you, a technician, go to those computers, sit down, create user A on computer A, user A on computer D, user B on computer A, user B on computer D, user C on computer A. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. In order for these computers to have credentials or authentication, meaning some kind of security, you would basically double your work. But what if we add computer B over here onto the mix? Now you have to repeat that same work over here. Okay? And if we added another computer, let's say computer C, you would have to do that same work over here. Where it becomes really fun is you got a new user that comes in the door, you now have to sit at computer C, add that user. Go to computer B, add that user. Go to computer A, add that user. Go to computer D, add that user. That's very time consuming on your part. So if we were to cut off the servers and we were to make this a peer-to-peer network, for example, if we were to cut this off here and make this a peer-to-peer network, you could see where that would get very time consuming. Now, if you worked for a real estate office or a doctor's office and they only had like 5 computers, this may not be a big issue for you. But if you take this and you times it times 20, or let's go even smaller, 20. So if you did that, you would certainly have like 5 computers times 20 is 100 computers, right? So you're going to have to go to each one of those 100 computers and add a user, and I don't know about you, but I don't got time for that, right? So there comes a point in your network where it becomes too time consuming to go to each computer. I'll just do D. Let's just play along here. Okay, so I did that again. Let's do A. There we go. Anyway, so it becomes very time consuming to do that. So instead of doing that, what we do is we connect it to servers. We change it from a peer-to-peer. Okay. Usually a peer-to-peer is only good for like 2 computers to maybe 20. I mean, that's a little bit too much even then. I would say even 10, right? Because it's going to be very time consuming. If you're doing consulting work for someone, you're going to want to start talking them into getting a server at about 10 users or more, or 10 computers or more. Really don't want to like go too much higher with that. You could see the work that's entailed in that. So what we would then do is we would set up a server, and let's say if we went with a 20 computer situation, we'd probably go with one server and have it do multiple services. So we could almost set up what's called a virtual machine, or a virtual host, and have guest virtual machines on it. Now, don't read too much into this. I'm just trying to use this as an example. But what we could do is we could centralize our services, and on the AD server in particular, because Active Directory, we can set one set of authentication lists, right? So we can list all of our users here. Okay? So when we get a new user, we add them here. Okay? And our workstations down here, or our clients, would be what we call joined to the AD server, which then joins them to these other servers, these other services on the network. So we go through the process of join C, B, D, and A. Okay? In a client-server network, if user A goes to work on computer C, when they go to authenticate or get access or use any services on this computer, it would go up to your servers, get the requested file, or if they're logging on, it would verify that they are who they are and that they can log on to this box. And if they wanted to print, they would print. The communication for the printing would go to the print server, which then would tell the printer to print. Okay, this all very much centralized, saves you money in the long run. Number one, you're saving time in the fact that your client, or if you're on-site tech, you're not going computer to update them. You're saving time and money, right? Because all you have to do is go up here, add the user here, and they have access to all these computers down here. Okay, so client server is a better way. And so if we were going to go back to definition, if we were going to define the difference between a peer-to-peer and a client-server network, is a peer-to-peer can be two or more computers connected directly together, okay, meaning through like a switch or something like that. And in a peer-to-peer network or a work group, computers connect directly to each other for services, okay, meaning if I want to get information off of B from A, or sorry, off of C from B, then I just communicate directly with that computer. And the ACL, or the user control access list, that list exists on each one, okay? And so therefore, they control their own permissions, okay? And so when you're in a network where each computer controls its own permissions, you're in a peer-to-peer network. If you are in a network where you have a server such as Microsoft's Active Directory server, okay, or a domain server, then you are in a client-server network where this reports up to here and vice versa, okay? So, let's see. I got another viewer. Hopefully I'm not boring the viewer. So that was a description of peer-to-peer versus client-server. So when I started this video, I said that we had to go over 5 different ones, and the ones I've gone over so far is peer-to-peer and client-server. The next thing, the next couple of terms that you're going to hear about is internet. If I spell it right, internet. Intranet. And extranet. I forgot the T on that one. Okay, so these are the next terms that you're going to want to learn about and know, and that's internet, intranet, and extranet. Okay, and what's the difference between these? Well, everyone should know this one. Internet. When you hear someone advertise the cloud, they're talking about the internet. And that's usually also referred to as a public cloud. Okay, so internet is the World Wide Web that we know of. Okay, and that's just a collection of interconnected networks that allow you to get access to services, right? So that's the internet. Basically, internet is everything's connected together. If you pay an ISP to connect to the internet, ISP stands for Internet Service Provider. If you connect to the internet, you're connecting to what's called the public cloud, okay? And this is what most people are aware of, right? Even my grandma knows what the internet is for the most part, right? But it's the public cloud, it's public space, it's out there, it's everything connected together. So it's multiple LANs and WANs connected together, and the people on their individual networks have opened up a port, and they have a assigned IP address on the public cloud, and they've said, hey, you can view this. Okay, so they're sharing information. An intranet is also known as a private cloud. So the internet is a public cloud. The intranet is a private cloud. Now, what I mean by private is if you have a LAN, everything on your LAN that you share internally, and it's only internally. So like, let's say we have the internet here, and I'm just going to represent it by a crappy cloud, and I go to my router if I'm in a small office and don't have a very good technician, and I got connection to my computers down here through the router or through a switch. Okay, you can, if you have, let's say on here, a server that is sharing an application between these client computers, okay, and the application exists. This is very simplistic. So the application exists on this server, okay, and client 1, client 2, client 3 all connect to this server to get access to that application. You are participating in a private cloud, okay, or an intranet, okay. A lot of people associate an intranet. Matter of fact, the company I work for calls their particular installation of this item the intranet, and that's typically if a company has oh gosh, I might have a brain fart. In particular, if the company has a SharePoint site. They will typically call this the intranet site. And the reason why they'll call it the intranet site is because typically on a Microsoft SharePoint site, they share documents, they share files, they share different things. SharePoint, up until recently, was free with the installation of Active Directory and a Windows server, so you could activate SharePoint and have file sharing pretty easily. And a lot of times when you would start up that, it would suggest that you name it the intranet, so everyone would assume that that's the internet. So again, by definition though, a private cloud is any LAN or local, it can be a WAN too. So if you watch my previous video where I described the difference between a LAN, WAN, CAN, and MAN, and all that stuff, if you have dedicated connections between your sites and the only people that can access that connection exists within your company, and within the network that you have designed, then you have what's called, you have a server that shares the application, then you have what's called a private cloud, okay, and that's considered intranet, okay. Public cloud, if you subscribe, which most people do now, to Office 365, or you subscribe to Adobe Creative Suite, the Creative Cloud suite that they have, then you are participating in what's called a public cloud. Okay, you're getting services from the internet that exist in the public cloud. Okay, you're getting public services. These components, such as Adobe, Creative Cloud and Office 365, they have versions of their software that do sit on your local machine, but they do check back to the public cloud to verify your licensing. They do check back for updates. Okay, so you are working with a public cloud situation. If you're in a company that doesn't have a local server, but they use AWS, which is a solution provided by Amazon, where you can basically rent servers in the cloud, or they have, Microsoft solution, then they exist in the cloud, then you are still you're a member of a public cloud, or you're getting services from a public cloud. So just to make it simpler, a public cloud is anything that exists in the internet, right here, okay? If it exists in the internet, it's part of the public cloud. If it exists in your local location, a server sits in a box in your location or across your private network, it is considered intranet, okay? Where it changes a little bit more is extranet. Extranet is a private cloud that you allow external people to access. Okay, so let's say you have 3 workers, and one day worker number 1 comes to you and says, look, I'm having family problems across the country. I still want to work. I know I can work doing everything that I do here remotely. Can I do that? Do we have the capability of doing that? And you, being the savvy network technician that you are, say, well, heck yes, we do. Our stuff all exists here in our private cloud, but I tell you what, I'll give you a client on your machine, your laptop, or whatever you take with you. I'll give you a client called a VPN client. Okay? And they say, oh, you can do that? Yeah, I'll give you a VPN client. Well, what's a VPN client? A VPN client is a virtual private network client. Okay, so you'll typically have like a server over here, or even a lot of routers have this feature built in if they're like a application layer router. They'll have the capability of doing a VPN, and what it'll do is it'll set up a tunnel between this user on his internet, okay, his internet connection, so he'll connect to the internet. It'll go through that crazy cloud of connections, okay? But with the VPN, virtually, it creates a basic pipe, a virtual pipe from his machine to your network, so he can get the same application access from here all the way across the state that he got here, okay? And since you're providing a local application to a user that's currently outside of your local network, this is now considered a extranet or a private cloud that you've allowed external access to. You've designated that this one guy or a group of people can connect to this application through the cloud, through the internet. Okay? It gets more complicated, obviously, but that's about the simplest term that I can do for you on that. So, difference between the internet, extranet, and or internet, intranet, and extranet is the internet is a public cloud. The intranet or intranet is a private cloud. Okay, a extranet is a private cloud that you've allowed someone else to connect into. Okay, so that is the definitions for that. So, yeah. So, and again, just remember that this user over here, if you work in a network where the application doesn't exist on your local location, okay? So let's say you have the router here and you subscribe to AWS. They have a lot of servers in their warehouse over here, and your application exists up here in AWS, and you're connected there, okay? Instead of using a VPN router, this gentleman here can connect directly to that app in the cloud, especially if they got Office 365 or something like that. If all the files are stored in like OneDrive, they connect to the cloud. That would be considered a public cloud connection. Okay, it gets a lot more complicated than this. This is really just an overview of what these are. As I go through my videos and as I describe different things, I'll refer back to these. So in this, you just really need to know the definitions for the Network Plus exam. You need to know what a peer-to-peer network is, what a client-server network is, what an internet is, what an intranet is, and what an extranet is. Okay, and I've given you all those definitions. So feel free to look back at the video. If you choose not to do that, I'll probably include some descriptions in the description section of the video. But yeah, there you go. All right, I don't know. Let's see here. Going on. Do I want to do network topologies? What time is it? Network topologies. I got a lot of material, so I'm going to bring this live stream to end, and thank you for what viewers I've had on this live stream while I've had it going on. I very much appreciate you being a part of my first stream. I very much hope that I'm able to get better at this as it goes along. Oh, I turned off the wrong one. There we go. Anyway, I hope that as I go along, all this gets a lot better, and you find these live streams that I do very useful. I will be recording more videos outside of this live stream, basically tying together what I've covered in this video or in this live stream altogether, and I plan to have these videos out within the next 48 to 72 hours. So hopefully you'll like the end result. And the next time I see you, if you choose to join these live streams again, will be Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, and I'll either be recording additional content for the video, or I'll be actually editing the videos together, so you'll get to see another side of it. But again, I plan on keeping these videos going, and just letting you see behind the scenes, ask questions, and hopefully you guys like them. If you do like it and you do want to support me, please check out my Patreon or give me a like if you didn't like the video. If you're watching a replay of this video, because again, I'm going to leave it online for posterity, then you're more than welcome to leave a dislike. But hopefully over the time as I make more videos, you're able to see me grow and see this channel grow. Again, very early stages, and hopefully it gets better from here, and again, everyone gets something out of it. Thank you very much for being part of my relaunch of this channel, and let's see where this journey takes us. You have a good one. Thank you very much. See you Wednesday.